All right, Yujin Vasquez, you have a $10,000 a month, 6 or 7 ETF portfolio. We're going to talk about that today. You actually have a video on his channel covering all of this. That's where I got this from. He is the dividend capitalist. You got a couple ETFs like, you got MSTY, Misty, which everyone loves by YieldMax. You got NVDW, NVIDIA. You got another one people haven't heard of probably, if they're Canadian, XDTE. But we're going to be going through each one. Remember to use the chapters below, bounce around. I'll have the tickers below here, me as well. Let's jump right into it. Thanks for being here. I know you're coming outside of your usual time zone, so this is late for you, so I appreciate it. Let's go. Let's number one you have here is PLTW, Palantir Weekly Pay from Roundhill. Really quick, for Canadians, Roundhill has 29 ETFs listed with a total of 5.15 billion in assets under management. So they're the 51st biggest ETF provider on the US stock market. I had to look that up because I wasn't familiar with Roundhill. That's why I'm saying it, because we're going to be saying Roundhill a lot. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have PLTW and NVW. And I just opened a new position today, actually, for the Tesla one, TSW or TSLW. But yeah, I like Roundhill. I'm not, I'm not being paid or sponsored by Roundhill, of course, but I do like Roundhill. I like what they offer, these weekly pay things. What I really find fascinating about these weekly pays is that they're not cover call ETFs. So a lot of people, because of this high yield space, cover call ETFs are all the rage. And now it's like the industry is starting to shift towards like leveraged ETFs and then leverage plus cover call ETFs. So it's really amazing how fast this industry is changing. But I do have, like I said, PLTW, NVW, and or NVDW, and the Tesla one. So these are weekly payers, and essentially what you should look at them as if you're bullish on the stock. Either for a short-term swing trade or maybe even a little longer of a hold period. If you're really bullish on the stock, these are 120% exposed to the upside, but also the downside. So you have to be careful there, but they will pay if there's momentum behind the stock. So if the stock, Palantir, for example, is moving up in value, well, you're going to get, a pretty decent distribution. However, if Palantir just takes a nosedive, Alex Karp decides, hey, I'm going to sell all my shares. I'm tired of it. I'm getting out of the company, and the share price declines. Well, you're exposed to that 120%. So that's why I really like, PLTW, because I like Palantir, I like NVIDIA, and I like Tesla. And I like the fact that these aren't NAV eroding ETFs. They're in the cover call space. There's this whole thing about NAV erosion. These ETFs, as far as I've been holding them, have not suffered kind of that same thing from the high distributions that these cover call ETFs have. Plus, cover call ETFs, they have, the capped upside, whereas these ones, they will trade very closely, if not more, to their underlier stock. So like Palantir, for example.
Let's break down Palantir, then PLTW. So the current yield we have here, and guys, this is changing, this yield. So this number, whatever I'm saying, is going to be different by the time you're watching it. 78.23%, expense ratio 0.99%. You have 250 shares, $10,000. You bought during the 14 to 15% dip because you thought it was a good buying opportunity. So you said when they're doing well, you do well. When they do bad, you do really, really bad. So how are you managing these? Are you looking at these every week? So these aren't a hands-off type of investment. Like I have covered call ETFs. I walk away from them now. What you're looking at every week? Are you buying and selling into positions every week? Like explain your thought process, break it down for me. What you're doing at least with Palantir.
Oh, sure. So for the PLTW stock, I actually increased my position to 1,027 shares. So I'm pretty heavy. It's my most overweight position in my portfolio. With high yield ETFs, especially these high yield, instruments, I take the approach of active management. Because my portfolio is super high risk. Not only do I have all these very high risk ETFs, leverage exposure, all that kind of stuff, but I also do use a lot of margin, right? So, using in this portfolio, you have to take an active approach. You can't just let it be passive. Now, it just happened to coincide with what I like to do. I like to keep up the news, understand everything and keep up with what Palantir is doing. So I watch Palantir like a hawk. I watch all of my holdings, more so the high yield stuff, not so much the REITs because they're boring. But more so the high yield stuff. I'm looking at the underliers. I'm looking at like Nvidia news. I'm looking at Palantir news. I'm looking for Tesla news. Did Elon tweet something stupid? Is that going to go down? Did Alex Karp say he's gonna sell some of his shares? Is the stock going to tank? Is the Department of Defense going to cut, artificial intelligence out of their budget? So I'm always looking for all these news sources to stay up to date with my holdings, because these things can go wrong really, really fast. So these are not just, set them and forget them. If you're bullish on the stock long term, that's your thesis. You could potentially do well, but all it takes is one bad thing, one bad news article to send the stock going down. So you have to kind of take these weekly pays a little more seriously. You have to understand exactly what's happening with the underlier. So for me, again, I follow Palantir very, very closely.
That's a general thesis we have on the channel, is you only invest in things that you know inside out. And at this point, you got to be like a Palantir expert, right? NVIDIA, exactly. Like, you did name drop all those guys. You're on top of it. Like, I own NVIDIA and I don't know that, but I'm not worried about it because I just own the stock and I bought it on massive dip. I'm not doing anything crazy with it. So, okay, that sounds a little bit stressful, but are you just used to managing that then at this point? You're just fine with it? It's just part of your day-to-day?
I held PLTW and NVW or NVDW through the downfall right after Liberation Day. I watched that portfolio get smashed. But I was so bullish and so, I knew that I was right. And there was all this fear, doom and gloom about defense budget cuts and everything else. But as I continued to research, I discovered that the Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth, Department of Defense Secretary, he used very fine language in every time he talked about defense cuts. He said, we're cutting the fat and moving it towards other areas that we're interested in. Through a lot more deeper research, artificial intelligence is one of those things that they were very key on. They want to make that a priority. So having invested in, something like Palantir through the dip all the way down, I knew this was a good pick, but there's more to that story. But yeah, that's essentially how I look at these things. Like, I have to know what's going on with these companies.
Wait, so you're not doing anything different than I guess technically I'm doing. You're just picking high conviction stocks for use Palantir. It makes no difference if it dips. Technically, just a buying opportunity because it's high conviction. You know it's going to bounce back.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Stress for me. That's why I survive. That's why I don't care about dips, because I know, like, hey, this is, regardless of what the market is doing, this thing is going to be here in a year, 2 years, or whatever. It's going to come back, which means ultimately doesn't affect anything as long as you don't sell during that dip. So you're fine. You don't take the loss. Okay, great. That removes stress. That makes sense. Okay. So your high PLTY, you have, like we said, you have 250 shares in that position. Let's move on to number 2. NVDW, NVIDIA, same thing, round hill, current yield 12.52%, expense ratio 0.99%. Anytime I say round hill, it seems like all their expense ratios are 97 to 99%. 0.97, 0.99, right?
Yeah. That's about average. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's about average for a lot of these funds out here. They're going to be about around the 99 basis point, for expense ratios.
One thing I like about this is the weekly pay. Are these the only two we're going to talk about today that are weekly pay, and everything else is monthly?
No, actually, XDTE is actually a weekly payer as well, but it falls under a different camp. But the weekly pay brand, I guess, from Roundhill, they include mostly single tickers. So like they have Hood, they have Palantir, they have Nvidia, they have Coin, they have some of the Mag 7, they have Tesla, Google, Apple. I think they have Amazon. I can't remember. And they have Meta as well. So, they have a couple different ones out there.
Explain your thought process with NVIDIA, how you're managing that ETF. Anything unique to that? Or are you doing the same thing you're doing with Palantir?
Same exact thing. So I follow NVIDIA religiously. So I had a thesis some time ago when everyone was talking about the data center boom, going bust, and everyone was like, get out of data centers, get out of tech, get out of chips, get out of NVIDIA, get out of AMD. And again, I just did my own research, found out, hey, there's all this FUD going around. This demand is not going anywhere. If I'm bullish on Palantir, which is an AI software, why wouldn't I be, bullish on the chip that's literally going to drive artificial intelligence into the world? So again, I keep up with everything Jensen Huang does and what NVIDIA is coming out with. And again, it's just the higher conviction. You have a thesis and you just roll it out and you invest, and it feels good to be right.
Well, one thing I like about your channel, Eugen, is you do these great videos. Like, you're so transparent with what you do, and you also talk about market news a lot. That's why I think I'm gonna be using you in a lot of different ways. I like to, when I talk with the channels, you do your videos and then you talk about topical things that are happening in the market, and you sort of break it down oh, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. So not only can I use you for an educational source on this, because you're good at explaining your thought process behind stuff, and that's why I'm sort of picking your brain here, because you're good at explaining that, but also to kind of be hey, what's happening? What's happening in the news affect my portfolio? What should I be looking out for? Because you watch these like a hawk. So I feel like if you're an NVIDIA guy, or if you're anyone who holds these stocks or interested in it, we can just go to your channel because you're updating it every other day with your decision-making process on this stuff. So, and I think that's kind of rare right now in this space, where someone's that open, that transparent, giving real-time updates like that. It's a little bit more broad. So there's a lot of value there. So guys, make sure I'm going to show it again, probably on screen right now. I probably showed it earlier. Check out his channel for that. Let's move on to, and really quick before we move on, you said you did add TSLW, which is this is a Tesla version. Is that weekly pay? Is that weekly as well?
Yeah, so they pay weekly as well. Yep. And it's the same thing. With the Tesla one, I'm still on the fence of how long to hold it for. I might swing trade it, just take the quick profits, take a quick dividend. But, I do like what Tesla is doing. Again, you have to keep up to date with what Tesla is doing now. And then not only that, you have the Elon factor. So it just gets kind of chaotic.
Yeah, I own Tesla, and I feel like Tesla's a great, actually, long-term hold. I don't feel like they're going anywhere. I just couldn't deal with the Elon factor, so I sold it. Because I was I don't really want to, I don't want to be I hate having to be what's this guy going to say? Then it drops. So I'm I kind of like to know what's going to happen with CEOs and stuff. So I sold it for that one reason, not because I thought it was a bad investment. Okay, looking at NVDW, sorry, before I move on, and PLTY, their yields are dramatically different. PLTW had 78%, NVDW had 12%. Why is that so drastic? Educate me on that.
It changes week to week. So if you look at on the Round Hills website, if you go down to the distribution history, you'll see that it spikes some weeks and it's low the other weeks. So again, there has to be momentum behind the stock. There has to be something driving the stock price. If it's an extremely volatile week, for Palantir, maybe something from YieldMax will do way better, right? Like the PLTY. But if something is driving the stock higher, like something for PLTW, then that will actually produce a better dividend yield. So the volatility behind, PLTW is good, but it's not good if it keeps going down, right? So that is kind of the way to look at these things. Like NVIDIA, not as volatile as PLTR is, as Palantir is, right? NVIDIA is kind of like the mega cap now, them, Apple, the Mag 7, they're not really going to be all that volatile. But except for, Tesla, of course. But, with Palantir, it's an up and comer, it was the talk of the town for a couple of months. So a lot of buying and selling, and driving that stock price higher. So that's why the distributions are different between those distribution rates. I tell this to people watching my channel, these are never the same. Do not buy these if you're expecting fixed income, right? Or steady income, right? It's going to fluctuate week to week.
What are you doing with this income, if you don't mind me asking? Are you reinvesting it, or are you actually using it to spend money?
Oh no, I reinvest everything. Yeah, I compound it all. So right now I don't need to take any of the distributions. Maybe that might change in the future, but right now I'm just compounding as much as possible.
Is this just a crazy compounding tool for yourself outside? You could do a more conservative method. You're wait a second, I can just do this. What percentage are you aiming okay, how do I explain this? I aim to get over 20% returns every year, 20 to 30%. I'm always trying to beat the S&P 500. So my whole portfolio should be up that much every single year if I do what I'm doing correctly. Do you have a percentage like that you're trying to do with these? I put in X, I want X out?
Yeah, I would say Yeah, I would say roughly speaking, like, because when you switch from, I call it classical investing, like the S&P 500 index 3 fund approach. But when you start diving into like actual high yield income investing, I have a dollar amount in my mind that I want to reach. And if I can reach that, then that's great. If I can double it or, triple it somehow, some way in the future, then, even better. But I try to be as conservative. And if I could clear 30%, let's say just in dividend income on the total portfolio, I'm a happy camper. Like I'm out of those couple of high yield ETFs. If I can clear 30%, then I'm gold. There's the much higher distributions out there, 100%, 120%. And I mean, those are good and all. But for me, just trying to practice a little more, or try to be more conscious about, principal decay or whatever. I know there's the argument of total returns versus, NAV decay and all that other stuff out there. But for me personally, I just want to shoot for something like 30% out of the total portfolio value. If I can get there, I'm happy. If I could double it, even better, but I'm happy at 30%.
Yeah, 30% is good. That's a good number. Yeah, that was my main question, being like, why not just invest my method, but my method is not safe either. I'll be completely honest. Like, that's why I don't make too many videos about it. Like I'm picking single stocks and stuff, and that's why I don't make really any videos on that. Okay, so that's that. Did we say Chippy CHPY, Chippy YieldMax Semiconductor ETF cover call? That just has a list of all the top semiconductors. So what do you have in there? Like NVIDIA, AMD, is that what it is?
Yeah. So funny thing about Chippy, it's the only product on the market right now in the high yield space, or even in the cover call space. It's the only product of its kind. And I'm so thankful YieldMax actually had this, for a few reasons. Again, looking back at my, thesis and everything else, bullish on data centers, artificial intelligence, the only logical step logical step before all of that is, kind of a tertiary layer, and that is semiconductors. So I looked through YieldMax's complete list of semiconductors, and they're all US based. And this was during the height of the trade war, right? So China, there's no exposure to China. ASML might as well be an American company, in my opinion. Taiwan Semiconductor might as well be an American company at this point, right? So I made sure all of these holdings, this is the level of research, right? Like I made sure all these holdings were at least US based, to limit the exposure to anything outside of the United States. Because there's a whole grander strategy behind all of this stuff. But beside the point, that was pretty much why I invested into Chippy. I could have went with something like a growth product like SMH or SOXQ, but I wanted to, again, build up this high yield dividend income. And this is a weekly payer as well from YieldMax. So I got to tip my hat to them, because Chippy actually pays out every other week. And they're hovering around the 30% range. So again, it fits perfectly in my portfolio design.
I gotta find the Canadian equivalents of a lot of this stuff. I like what you're doing here. I want to get into margins a bit. I'm going to get through this list, but I kind of want to get into the margins. I don't think people understand that. We had a Canadian investor on here, Bassam. He uses margins as well. I think they work well for this strategy, right? Because you're playing with money on like a weekly basis. But let's get into that more in a bit. X-Ray cover call ETF for S&P 500 from Roundhill. You also use XDTE, and it's working in tandem with X-Ray. So let's break down X-Ray a little bit, XDTE, and explain how they're working in tandem. This is also from Roundhill. The current yields for X-Ray is 20 to 21%. Current yield for XDTE is 31%. Remember, this changes, guys. Same expense ratio, 0.99% roughly. So just walk me through those two and how they work together.
Sure. So in one of my videos, I explained this whole core satellite approach to high yield investing, right? Basically limit your risk, put a lot more of your cash into an anchor position, something, because a single stock like PLTW can drop 10%. An index, it's hard for it to drop 10%, right? So that's the thinking behind all of this. So I went heavy into XPay and XDTE, and these are both cover call ETFs for the S&P 500. Now, the reason why I went with these two specifically was because XPay pays a managed 20 distribution, like a target 20. They're always going to aim for 20% when annualized. So if I had a hypothetical 100,000, there's my guaranteed 20K. Boom, right off the bat. All right. You don't have to think about it. Right. With XDTE, it's going to fluctuate. Right. It's been hovering between like the 24 and 30% range, which I'm fine with. Like I can work with that, and it pays weekly. So those are my two largest positions in the portfolio. They're the anchors. They're the ones where, like, if the stock market, if we have another Black Swan event, or if we have another, True Social post that, from our commander in chief that just drops the market, well, the single stock tickers, they're going to suffer the most, but the indexes, it's really hard to drop an index, a couple percentage points. Like it takes something big, like, starting a trade war with the whole world.
Yeah. That's true too. Oh gosh, let's talk about that too as well. Let's get into that after. Let's get through the list because I know people want us to get through the list. But there's a lot I want to talk to you about because I have a lot of Canadians on, right? Because I'm Canadian, but you're a very American. At 4th of July just happened, so you're probably coming off of that. So you're really patriotic right now. So I'd love to I want to hear your viewpoints on a lot of stuff. So we kind of went through number 4 and 5, X-Rate and XDTE. So that's more just like a foundational part of your portfolio, I suppose. Like they're stable, even though they have great payouts, by the way, 20 to 21%, XDTE at 31%. But there is kind of like, it's the S&P 500. You mentioned before, index funds aren't going to drop like that much compared to Palantir or something like that. I see. Do I have any information about your portfolio? How much you have in this? Is this a large portion of your portfolio? I don't have any numbers here. That's why.
Yeah. So I have, I believe it's like they're equally weighted, the 70,000 in each. So the big difference between the two, and I forgot to mention this, is XPay, they do like long cover calls. So people refer to this as like the poor man's cover call strategy, right? So they do really long cover calls, whereas XDTE is a zero DTE cover call strategy. So, in the high yield space, we always talk about recovery, right? Recovery, NAV recovery, that kind of deal. And I will say that XPay has actually recovered far better because I think of the monthly payments and the strategy it utilizes compared to XDTE, which is paying, every single week. And then the strategy is vastly different. So there's also a strategy difference between these two ETFs. They're not just cover call ETFs, like a blanket cover call ETF. There's two separate strategies, which I don't know if they actually have any kind of a delta in the portfolio. But I will say that, volatility is definitely, I would say more tame having these two cover call ETFs in the portfolio, for me anyways.
I wrote down here X-Ray, but you said it's XPay?
Yeah, XPay. Yeah.
I wrote it wrong. Okay, the reason why I'm asking is, sorry, I got that wrong. So it's XPay, XDTE. I'm going to go through this really quickly. And the reason why I'm asking is I'm going to be looking up Canadian equivalents to all of this stuff. What is my closest Canadian counterpart that does kind of what this does here? And then finding it, and I'm probably going to add I'm going to add a weekly margin-based strategy to my portfolio for A and B reasons. A, because I just like testing things. B, gives me something else to talk about on my channel. Be like, hey, look what I'm doing, right? It's just 2 reasons. I don't suggest anyone else until they do more research. I do like live research, just like watch me screw up live on YouTube. So other people don't have to. So PLTW, NVDW, CHPY. You also added TSLW, XPAW, which is XPay, XDTE. That's where we're at right now. This is the one that everyone knows about, but let's break it down. MSTY, every US finance guy loves this one. Misty, Yield Max, MSTR, option income. Yield 140%. I guess that's why they love it. That's a crazy yield. Expense ratio 0.99. You have a good position in this. You recently added 50K, so 2,400 shares as part of your Bitcoin strategy. Let's talk about your thoughts on it and your Bitcoin strategy, probably because you want to allocate a portion of your portfolio to it.
Yeah. I was looking at my structure of my portfolio, like all my holdings, how much is high yield, how much is tech, how much is REITs. And I, decided, because through my research and everything, understanding monetary policy, the future of the United States, what's happening with this administration, the potential impacts, et cetera, all that stuff. And I came to the conclusion, and obviously I was looking for a reason not to invest in MSTR. So this is how it started. I was looking for a reason not to invest in MSTR, and somehow orange pilled myself. So yeah, I became bullish inadvertently on MSTR, and by extension on Misty, well, Bitcoin as well. So if you're bullish on Bitcoin, you're bullish on MSTR, and by extension, you're bullish on Misty. So the whole point of this Bitcoin strategy and investing with Misty first, because a lot of Bitcoiners were like, you're stupid. You should have just went with Bitcoin first. And I'm like, well, no, because I need income. I need to show some type of income for my own personal financial reasons. So I decided to go with Misty over the other competitors because they have MSII from RexShares, they have MST from Defiance, and they have, I forget the last one. There's one more. Oh, IMST from Bitwise. I was hoping Roundhill would come out with MSTW because I would have bought that without even second guessing it. But anyways, I decided to go with Misty. And the whole reason is because since it produces such a high amount of income, I can use that money to reinvest into MSTR and IBIT or Bitcoin, right? Native Bitcoin. And I'm basically, diversifying the cash flow, because if Misty was to go down in value so much because of the NAV erosion, the high payouts, all that other stuff, well, that's okay because I have MSTR shares, which is leveraged Bitcoin. I'm expecting and bullish on Bitcoin to go up in value. So if Bitcoin goes up in value, MSTR will go up in value. So all the money that I put into these growth assets will continue to rise. And then, by extension, Misty should also rise in value. So that was really the net of it for this portfolio. And the net benefit overall is really just to get exposure to some type of cryptocurrency. So I stayed away from a lot of cryptocurrency. And, now I'm like, hey, let me, after figuring out kind of the Bitcoiners' perspective of the United States and where monetary policy is heading, inflation, the de-dollarization, all that other stuff. After hearing all of that, I'm like, it might make sense to go in with a portion of this portfolio allocated to Bitcoin. So this is how I came up with the Bitcoin strategy. Well, I didn't come up with it. There's a couple other YouTubers out there. I mentioned them in the video, but I basically just kind of followed their lead and kind of took what they had and just made it appropriate for myself. So that's how I ended up with Misty. It wasn't because, it pays 140%. Let me just put I'm all in on Misty. No, I'm a little more risk averse.
So that 140%, you're taking some of that yield, probably you're buying back into Misty, but you're also buying MSTR with it. So you're buying like a leveraged, so you're buying the underlying asset, but leveraged as well. So that's kind of what you're doing. That's two things working together there. That's the strategy. That's what I was thinking of doing. It's Canadian version, to be honest. Because I own I don't own a 140% high yield, but I own a pretty high yield one. Your reason for getting into crypto, I heard everything about crypto, every argument for why it's gonna be the best thing ever, like everything. I still don't quite get it. And I've heard like 100 hours worth of people going off about crypto, and I still don't quite comprehend the value of it, because it's like, it's not legal tender. You can't use it. It's still only as valuable as like if you turn it into actual, you're back at cash no matter what. So like, I still don't get it. It's just like a speculative asset. It means it's like nothing, but I'm buying it now because so many people own it that it's dumb not to have it part of your portfolio, because it just, even if I don't like agree and I don't think I don't even know what people think it's going to be in 20 years, 100 years, but I just don't see it. Like my brain's not comprehending it. I just own it because I go, okay, great, add to my portfolio. Let me just figure out make it work, how to make it work, which is probably using the strategy you just outlined here. Okay, the next one is number 7, or technically number 8 if you count the Tesla one. SGOV, short-term treasury. Can you walk me through that? The yield is roughly 4%. You added $50,000, so that's 499 shares. Okay, I have a note here. You mentioned it's a flexible position for portfolio protection and to park dividend income for tax purposes. Is that accurate? And just kind of talk me through that.
So that's my most unpopular position. A lot of people don't like that I put money into treasuries because, that's pretty much an old man's type of like asset class, right? Yeah. But the tactical reason for this is because of how much leverage I use, how much margin I'm using, and how much debt I have. SGOV, what it is a cushion from a dramatic downfall, right? From a black swan event. So that is pretty much the idea behind it. So I ran some, back testing, some calculations using, just like AI, and basically just said how much, because in Robinhood, US stockbrokers, every stock, every ETF has a margin maintenance requirement. And if you reach this threshold, you'll get a margin call. So I almost got margin called during Liberation Week. Luckily that didn't happen, but that made me not sleep well at night. So having this SGov position is just that. It allows me to sleep well at night. In case we have another Black Swan event and things start dropping, SGov does not drop. SGov will not drop, right? Maybe it can. I have no idea, but it's used to basically buffer that whole portfolio, while everything is falling down, right? While the sky is falling down. And it's flexible. It's elastic. I can add to it. I can take away from it. If I'm, bullish on the rest of this year, if I don't see any, true headwinds starting to materialize, like, maybe policy or something, and maybe another war, I don't know. As long as I don't see that stuff happening, then I can lower, what's in SGov and then put that into XDTE or whatever else, XPay, I don't know. And then if things get choppy, like really bad, another Black Swan event, we don't know when that's going to happen, but I can take that money, put it back into SGov. The other reason is because of taxes, right? Or something like, to that nature. I don't have a bucket for taxes, right? So every time I take distributions, I've just been reinvesting it. But I started to think about, okay, I got to start considering taxes. So now I'm taking a portion of the dividend from all the distributions I get and just dumping it into SGov or something like that. Because I don't want to put it into Robinhood brokerage and have to transfer it to a bank account and then just leave it sitting there. At least if it's sitting in SGov, as long as the federal funds rate is where it's at today, then I'll be collecting a 4% annualized yield on it, which is, hey, it's better than nothing.
That's smart. I like that. That's really, God damn it. I'm just trying to think through, was I doing that? I don't think I'm doing anything like that I have a covered call portfolio that I pay taxes. It's on a non-registered Canadian account, so I'm paying taxes on everything. I was just parking cash and just being like, oh, it'll just sit there and I got to pay taxes on it. So I was taking a percentage of the payouts. Like 80% I reinvest in, 20% I was just keeping out for like taxes and whatever. But I could have just parked it somewhere super stable.
And here's the scary part. Here's the scary part. If I could just expand on that point. So during Liberation Day, there's a lot of these high yield investors that were margined all the way, and they were buying a lot of these cover call ETFs that were not only eroding in value. So you're fighting three market forces. One was a NAV erosion that is inherent in these cover call ETFs, right? So they're going down in value regardless of the distribution. And then two, you're fighting the market, right? Market's going down. And now you're fighting the broker. The broker increased the margin maintenance requirement on all these cover call ETFs during the most volatile time. So people were getting wrecked. Like they were getting margin call left and right. They're having to sell shares, add money, all this stuff. If people started, or if they had at least a sizable SGov position or some type of buffer in their portfolio that was not volatile, it's possible that they could have survived something like that. So having seen things like that, I'm like, I don't want that to happen to me. Almost happened to me. It's not the worst thing in the world. Robinhood's not going to come break your legs and take the money, but it's just, I don't want to sell at a loss. I don't want to amplify my losses. So SGov is that pillow for me.
We're talking a lot about margins now, but I know a lot of people who watch my channel, they don't use margin accounts, aren't familiar with them. A lot of them just use tax sheltered accounts. Can you, in the simplest way possible, explain margin accounts, getting margin called, just so people know when we kind of reference it moving forward?
If you had $100,000 and you take margin, you're taking on additional debt, right? So depending on how much debt you can take on maybe $1, or you could take on an additional $100,000, right? So it's really up to you. A margin call is when your portfolio goes down so much in value that the broker wants to protect their investment. They want to make sure they get paid. So you enter into what's called a margin call. And basically that margin call is the broker saying, hey, you need to put money in the account to make your account current. And if you don't, we're just going to sell your shares. So that's essentially a margin call.
There you go. All right. So we've gone through, I think, have we gone through everything? Okay, now that's that, guys. That's his roughly 10K a month. A couple things here that changes, that goes up and down, right? Because these yields are changing. A lot of these yields are changing week to week. Talk a little bit about that. talk about, do you even care that it goes up and down at this point? It's just part of it. You just kind of factor that into your decision making. Doesn't bother you. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so like the distributions, they go up and down. So this is why it's like I'm happy with a 30%. And again, like my living situation is pretty unique. So I live in a low cost of living country, right? I live in Thailand. In case you didn't know or the audience didn't know. So having even if like say I'm making 10K a month, right? And then it drops, let's say to 7K, let's say it drops to 5K. So I lost 50% of my distribution. I could still survive very well off of 5K, right? So that is kind of a net benefit of investing in this style. Of course, if you're living in a high cost of area, like United States, Canada, et cetera, your needs are going to be far different than mine. But yeah, like the distributions, they'll change week to week, but it doesn't, like I don't really notice it as much. I've been tracking my portfolio, and the more money I put in, the more money it spits out, right? It's kind of scary, like this can't be real, like this has to be fake.
Yeah. Do you own any traditional ETFs, or is this it? This is your portfolio here. Do you have any other more traditional positions in anything, or are you all in on this strategy?
No, I do have a lot of different positions. So I believe in diversification for sure. So 30% of the portfolio is actually in REITs, like individual REITs that I have my highest convictions in. My background is real estate. So I have that, and I have a tech-focused ETF, VGT from Vanguard. It's like 300 different holdings, so I don't have to think about it. It plays nicely with the whole AI thesis I have, so I just let it rip. I could have went with an S&P 500, but I was like, I want a little more oomph, especially under this current administration and for the future.
So the REITs are all U.S. holding, U.S. whatever REITs?
Yeah.
So that's giving you out monthly payments as well too, right? For the REITs that you have?
More so quarterly. I have a few monthly payers, but yeah, they're obviously not as high of a yield as some of these other things out there.
Same thing as this, then you're just taking that money, reinvesting it back into the REIT. That's it. Having a compound. Mm-hmm. I think it might be come back on. We can talk about REITs next time. I have a lot of people. I've had two people on the channel who are passionately against Canadian REITs, where they're like, don't buy them. They're just messing. But they're cool with the US REITs, but you own US REITs. So you're good there. Okay. So that's that. Your portfolio is, you have the Vanguard tech ETF thing on the side. You have the REITs large position on that side, but then here's where you're dumping a lot of money here into this covered calls / margin strategy here. And that's 7 ETFs. That's that, guys. Anything else you have your eye on right now that you think you're thinking of buying that maybe you're going to talk about on your channel?
Yeah, there's no like Tesla was the last second like buy. I saw the dip today, and I'm like, you know what, might as well open a position. I had 4,000 of buying power. I'm like, let me just drop it in there. But I try not to get in and out of positions often or open new positions, because like I personally don't like people will invest in things that they don't fully understand, right? There's this prevailing thought out there, especially in the high yield space. They're like, oh, we can get paid every single day, Monday to Friday, but then they don't understand the actual things that they're buying. They just know that it pays on a Wednesday or on a Tuesday or on a Monday. And it's just like, oh, I don't care. I'm getting paid every day. And it's like, well, you're going to care when these things drop, So I like to understand my holdings. I like to formulate long-term theses for these things. I enjoy it. So I don't really swap in and out of positions often.
Yeah, I don't think you would. Looking at this, like Palantir, that seems like that was high conviction for you. NVIDIA, you're investing in NVIDIA. That ain't going anywhere anytime soon. You have a semiconductor ETF, which is just like, and you said it's US based for the most part. So this is so similar to traditional investing. It's just like the payout structure and everything is different. It's like you're using the exact same like mind frame of like, okay, do I believe in this company? Do I know this company? Great. And if I believe in them, I know they have value. There's not like anything weird to them. Dips don't matter. They're just buying opportunities because they'll come back up. You're like, make me want to do this now. Like talking to you like this. I'm just my brain's thinking. I'm going, okay, great. Yeah, and I probably will. I'm probably going to run a test on my channel now. I'm getting a couple Canadian equivalents of what we talked about here today. I have a couple questions. You said you're in Thailand?
Yes. Yeah. So I've been here for about a year.
Are you there just, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? You look really young. How old are you?
Oh, I'm 35.
I'm 39. You're younger than me. You're a child in my eyes. I know. Are you just there for, because it's nice, it's Thailand, and that's like a lot of people who work from their laptop go to Thailand, or are you there because is there a tax incentive? Because I have people on the channel who move to different countries because tax incentives, and so they're always somewhere beautiful, like equivalent of like a Thailand. Why are you there? Is it just a personal preference, or there are advantages from a tax benefit side?
It's more personal than anything. So I don't talk about it much on the channel. But I used to work in the Middle East. So I was a DOD contractor for about 8 years, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Jordan, all that stuff. So I stayed in the Middle East for a while, been to Dubai several times, and I just don't want to live in the Middle East, right? I could have lived in Dubai, right? But Thailand just has everything I want. It has great food. The cost of living is crazy compared to where I was coming from. Like even back in the States, like my hometown, like just completely, like the rent is $2,500, almost $3,000 for like a 2-bedroom apartment. $3,000 could be my entire month's worth of expenses. That includes partying, drinking, rent, electricity, cell phone bill, internet, and still have some money to go on a short little trip or an excursion. Like, I mean, the cost differences are so different. Plus food and everything else is all included in there. So I decided, cause I came here to Thailand in 2019, and I just fell in love with the place. Like it's a whole different energy. It's a different vibe. The people are so kind. Westerners, I mean, I'm just going to say it. We're rude as hell. We always think someone has it out for us. And just being out here in Thailand, it's just completely flips. People are so much kinder out here. They're nicer. Even in the city of Bangkok, it's a hustling and bustling city, but you go out at nighttime and you could just feel the energy out there. Like just everyone's happy. It's truly the land of smiles. Everyone's just happy out here. So that it's more of a personal choice than anything. But you have Southeast Asia out here. You have Vietnam. You have Cambodia. You have the Philippines. You can hop over to I don't know, maybe South Korea, Japan, if you really wanted to. So you have options. You have Bali. That's like a $120 flight. So yeah, it's just a great location.
I feel like Thailand has a lot of foreigners living there. So there's like a whole community of you guys, not just like you by yourself. What are you then? Like you're obviously American, but what race are you? You're not Thai, are you? Or you're
No. I almost look Thai. Yeah, I almost look Thai.
Yeah, I don't know what you are though.
I'm Korean and Hispanic, so I get mistaken as a Filipino or as a Cambodian or even as a Thai local. I get mistaken all the time.
Yeah, because I couldn't peg you, but yeah, okay, you're mixed race. That makes sense. So, do you ever go to the Philippines or anything like that?
I've been to the Philippines once. I've been to the Philippines once.
You said you're Hispanic and what though? Sorry, I maybe got it wrong.
South Korean.
It's Korean. Oh, sorry, I said Philippines. Korean. Korea would be expensive to live there though. I feel like
I wouldn't know. Never been there.
Yeah. All right, so that's why you're in Thailand. That's pretty cool. How did you get into the YouTube thing though? Because you said you're working in DOD in Dubai, and now you're making investment videos on YouTube. That pivot doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So I started investing back in 2016-ish. I didn't know anything, and I just through the years just learned. I did a lot of real estate. So real estate is really the bread and butter. Did some stock investing like index funds, the type of traditional stuff. And it wasn't like the last year I was working, I just got completely burned out. Like I didn't want to do it anymore. This will sound selfish, but I get a lot of joy from helping people. So throughout the entire time, like people would come to me and ask me questions on finance or investing or real estate and I just got an absolute joy out of it. So I was like, you know what? Let me try this Thailand stuff. Let me try this YouTube thing. Let me give it a shot. So I just quit my job, packed my bags, and here I've been, right, for the last year. And I've just been pumping out videos, doing my own investing. Like I actually became a better investor, I think, by by doing this, by actually focusing on it 100%. Because I would have still been just doing the traditional index funds, maybe a rental property here and there. But yeah, actually having focused on this, like the doors, everything just kind of opened up for me. And I'm like, wow, like I thought this was hard, but this is actually kind of easy.
Are you still doing any real estate stuff, or are you just completely done with that too as well?
So I used to own rental properties. Kind of hard to do when you're overseas. I sold all the rental properties, moved a lot of that money into the stock portfolio, and then just kind of I do still invest in real estate. I still have a couple investments as a limited partner in like some big like apartment complexes. But outside of that, like I probably will kind of slowly start migrating away from real estate because it's just the stock market. It's just so quick. Like, you know, you can get in, get out, you can get your gains, you can get your high yield much faster. Real estate is a very slow, thing. It's a very slow, archaic, investment. Yes, it has tax benefits and all that stuff, high cash flows. There's benefits to owning real estate. But, in my phase of life right now where I need to prioritize income and a little bit of growth, and I can't lock my money up for 5 or 7 years, the stock market makes the most sense.
So is your primary source of income in Thailand through investing now and then YouTube? Is that what you do full time for both essentially?
Yeah, pretty much just investing and like YouTube. I mean, it's not exactly paying the bills, but YouTube is more or less of it's just a hobby. Like I just really enjoy it. I enjoy connecting with people. So that's it.
I can only imagine, like, if someone looks at you from 2 years ago, the DOD guy in Dubai, to this guy chilling, making YouTube videos, living his best life. Has your demeanor changed? Have you as a person, as a human being, are you just way cooler, relaxed, happier? Like, I can just imagine like people who know you in other life looking at you now being like, whoa, like that's all, in a good way, in a really good way. Like this guy is like doing it. He's doing like high stress, whatever, all that stuff. I don't know anything about that world, but I can just assume to now it's just like, how's that shift been? How are people who look at you from the outside in, who you are now? Because that's a huge lifestyle change. How do you feel overall? Because this is something important. You kind of decide to do what's best for yourself. You took a moment for yourself. So talk about that.
So yes, a huge change. And I know there's a huge change because I have a lot of, friends, coworkers, who, they call to check in on me, see how I'm doing. And they're like, dude, you sound so much happier and so much more relaxed. Some of them actually came here to Bangkok. So we went out for drinks and everything. And they just can tell I'm so much happier. The work was like stressful. It was pretty stressful. Some days, not every day, but, it's just when you're not engaged in the work, you're not challenged enough. You're just a body in a seat. I kind of peaked at that point. So I was starting to become somebody I did not like, or I didn't even recognize. Like I just didn't like that version of me. So I call that the version 2, right? The version 2 peaked, and now he's just a grumpy, 34-year-old guy, showing up to work pissed off all the time. So now it's totally different. I actually have old coworkers who found my YouTube channel. I never told anybody about YouTube, right? They find my YouTube channel and they're just sending me emails and texts, and they're like, dude, what the hell? Like, what are you bro, what are you doing? Like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm in Thailand. They're like, what the hell? Like, the manager, because I was a manager, they're like, the manager in you just is gone, like complete 180. And I'm like, yeah, it's totally different now, man. Like, I don't have to care about you guys. I don't have to care about meeting deadlines or signing, training rosters and all this garbage, like I'm stress free. I wake up, the whole day is mine, and I get to just do investing and do YouTube and read articles and connect with people like you, just interesting people. So, I mean, what do I have to be upset about?
That's a good message. I think a lot of people get locked into that job they hate. They get stuck there. The pay as well. And I'm thinking of potential pushback here. Could people go, well, because you probably have no kids or anything, right? So you're able to make a move to Thailand or whatever and go, and you're sort of just, well, not in a bad way, but like, okay, you got yourself, you can go there, right? You're not tied down too much to anything. I think a lot of people be like, well, I got kids, I got a mortgage and all that kind of stuff. A couple of things about that. So I'm going to try to dispel anyone who says I can't live the life that Eugen has. Is Adriano had a mortgage in a house or whatever. He paid that off, sold it, got into covered call ETFs. Now he moved and living his best life with his wife, so he's married. Kids. Well, I got 2 kids. I have a house. I'm tied down here, but I still, on all my free time, was working on things like YouTube, working on other forms of income that would supplement eventually what I was currently doing to the point where I could just take over what I was doing. And I'm now in a position where everything I'm doing is just cool shit that completely has covered all the money I was making for stuff I hated doing. Right. But it was like a slow process. It just takes a lot longer when when you're tied down with kids and stuff, but it's still all doable. And it was all the same thing that you had in mind. I was like, man, I'm done with this. I'm grumpy. I'm pissed off all the time. I had peaked too in what I was doing before. It's like, I got to do something newer, better for myself. And typically when you find shit you like, you excel in it. Like, that's why your channel's awesome, right? It's just like, you probably have unlimited energy to create this kind of content and keep pumping this stuff out. Another thing is like, do you travel outside of there? Like, are you backpacking and going around? For some reason, I keep meeting people who are like digital nomads. Are you one of those guys, or are you anchored there more or less?
Honestly, I'm more anchored. I live a very boring lifestyle. Like when I was working, I did all the fun stuff, partied, traveled, all that stuff. I don't even want to do it anymore. Like it's hard to even get me out of the house anymore. So I'm just content with where I'm at right now because I'm kind of like in grind mode right now. So like I'm focused on health, focused on, just expanding my knowledge, getting smarter. I'm focused on just whatever this is, right? YouTube/investing. This is my focus for this year. And then next year, maybe I could, dial it back a bit and go travel, maybe to Bali or hop up to Chiang Mai or maybe go to the, PP Islands in Phuket. Like I've done a lot of that already. But yeah, this year it's like, I wanted to be tied down. I want to make sure I get this working before I even touch anything else. And then I could kind of figure it out from there. To your point earlier, and I wanted to touch on this, like people will see my lifestyle, right? Or I've seen other people's lifestyles that have similar things. They're living in Thailand, they're young, they got entrepreneurial businesses, all that stuff. Like this is the summary, right? This is the highlight reel. Like nobody saw those hard days living in a tin can in Iraq, taking shells, or those hot and 120 degree days where you're walking to work, sweating your butt off, or 12-hour days at a desk, 5 or 6 days out of the week, or, just dealing with, not only the work itself, but the mental stress as well, the anxiety that comes with the job, or even just the line of work. So, people don't see that. They see the highlight reel and they're like, I want that lifestyle. He's lucky or whatever that he was able to do this, but it's not. There was a buildup period to get to this moment. It was 8 years worth of buildup. There was lessons learned. There was money lost. All right. I didn't win every one of my bets. There was all these lessons that got me to where I am at this moment. And then now I'm building the bridge as I'm walking it. So I'm still building this bridge and walking it. So I don't know what the next step is going to look like. I have no idea, but I guarantee you if we do another interview in a year, it'll look far different. And then people will still see that same video and be like, oh, he's lucky. He got to do all this stuff. And like, no, there's a build up period. So I just wanted to add to that point because I feel pretty deeply about that.
Thank you for adding that. That's really, really important. And Jesus Christ, there's zero luck to what you just pulled off. I can tell you that much. It's because you're on camera and you're happy and you're successful. Everyone thinks it was luck, but like you mentioned before, I'm assuming so then you were actually in the military, then you transferred into I don't even understand what DOD contracting. When I think contracting, I think like an engineer, but were you doing military service work and that's called DOD contracting? Is that like the term for it? Like how does that, tell me about your career. Like did you join the military and you kind of worked up into different positions through that? Because I'm not too familiar.
Yeah, so I am prior service, but I was deployed in Afghanistan like 2013, 2014 time period, if memory serves me right. And I'm an IT by trade. So information tech professional by trade. So when I was there, that's when I got exposed to contractors. Like these guys are just the bearded guys that don't really get haircuts. They, big bellies, look like a bag of trash. Like, I say this as an affection to all my contractors out there. But anyways, khaki pants, all that stuff. So I was like, how much do you guys make? And they were saying these insane numbers. And I was like, what? So I got my certs while I was deployed. Again, goal oriented. I have a vision in front of me. And I was like, I got to get these certs because I want to come work out here. I could do this lifestyle. It's easy. But then I went back home, stayed for 2 years, and then I quit my job and said, applied for a job finally. And they were like, well, where do you want to go? And I was like, wherever you're going to pay me the most amount of money. They're like, okay, Iraq it is. And this was right after the height of the ISIS, stuff. So, we beat ISIS back, and that fighting was starting to dry down towards Mosul into Syria, all that stuff. But yeah, I was there for that, so, first location was Baghdad. And then, just again, try to be useful with my time, not doing anything, reading books, investing, real estate, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
What kind of work are you doing in IT? Oh, how much are you allowed to say that you're doing in IT in Baghdad? Like what kind of stuff? What are you doing?
Right. I totally glossed over that. But yeah.
Remember, like my perspective I'm a Canadian guy I fought my older brothers growing up. I don't know any of this stuff. Like there's no real, I don't have any of that. Like, so
yeah,
I'm looking, you got to educate me a bit here. Yeah.
So, the military, they need contractor support, right? Contractors can do everything. Basically, clean a toilet, clean a bathroom, or fix a computer, manage a network, right? Or everything from intelligence to fixing air wings or running base operations, right? It's a contract heavy force that supports the military. So, Afghanistan, Iraq, similar thing, Kuwait, similar thing. So my job is information tech. So I was supporting the Army's basically networks, so I was helping, fix their machines, their printers, all that kind of stuff. And then I just kind of worked my way up. And eventually, I was gifted enough to make a manager, which was probably a dumb idea, but became a manager. And then I was promoted the first year to manager. So I just hopped around from country to country, base to base, and I was just managing whatever that meant. So I was managing teams of professionals that do everything from network administration, systems administration, cybersecurity, help desk, outside plant, satellite communications, technical facility control. They're doing everything, and these were all a great group of people. Like I've never really truly had bad experiences with my teams. So that was essentially what I did.
That's all off your computer though. That can't be done remotely. You have to be on location for all of that.
You have to be on location because you're supporting, it's one, it's security, but two, you're supporting a network that is not readily available to the public, right? Like it's a very restricted network. So we were supporting those networks.
Are you just plugging? I don't even know how much you can say. Are you just plugging directly into that network? It's not like I can just connect my Wi-Fi to it.
No. People connected their cell phones, and the NSA would know that they plugged their phone in. They'd know everything about that phone, and they'd know where it was plugged in, what time it was plugged, all that stuff. So they knew all of that. So you were never supposed to plug your phones in.
So you know a ton about like the tech side of how the military operates, how all the dude, that would be a sick podcast if you had that. Just have all these crazy other military guys on and you guys just break down like how the US like I would listen to you guys for hours talking about crazy military stuff because most people are just civilians, and I guess you were a civilian being contracted there at that point, or that how it works, right?
So I was a civilian hired through a private company, and this private company had a contract with the government, and then I was a contractor.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that sounds like that would be super high stress or just crazy. And then that's a hard pivot into now, like you said, you've gone through a lot, and you ended up where you are today. Does it give you peace of mind though? Like you're obviously highly disciplined. You're not just some guy who's lounging around in Thailand and hoping money falls in your lap. Does it give you peace of mind that everything will be okay? Because it will be okay because you're like, I know how to do my shit. I'm organized. I'm smart. I know how to make money online. Like that way you can live your best life while you're there, not have that stress. You're not worrying about paycheck to paycheck. You're not worried about bills. Because a lot of people go traveling, they go backpacking, and then they're broke. You're like, no, no, no. I'm 34. I've had a life. I have discipline. I know how to make money. I'm good at investing. It's like that's part of why you can be relaxed is you have confidence in your abilities, in your skills.
It's a little bit about, it's a little that I would say it's a little of that. Like I do have a lot of confidence in my own abilities, right? I mean, I was really good at work. I was really good at what I did, and managing teams of 50 people, right down to, 10 people. I mean, I was really good at what I could do. So when you decide to go at it yourself, there's going to be a learning curve, but what I kept telling myself is you're going to figure it out. And I had such a good support group of other people who are very like entrepreneurial or going on the same path as me, the same journey, so to speak. And we mastermind. Dude, guys, bros, I'm feeling like absolute butt today. Like I feel like I should go back to work. Like, nah, man, dude, this is the period of sacrifice. You got to go through it. Everyone is going to go through it. It's going to come out well, right? But also even before some of that, it was there was just like this desire, like I just knew that even if this failed, I came into this with, if this fails, I'll just get a job. But at least I'll be able to walk away and say that I did something. I won't live with a regret. Like this, if I didn't do this, I would have regretted it for sure. It was eating at the pit of my stomach while I was showing up to work every single day. And I'm like, I got to do this. Like I have to. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to figure it out, but I'm going to figure something out because I can't just keep coming to work and being absolutely miserable with my situation. And by all measures, I was very successful at work. I mean, the company paid for my car, the company paid for my apartment. I had a company paid cell phone. That's peak success right there, right?
Yeah, that's hard to give up.
Yeah. And like you worked 5 days a week, 12 hours a day, you had the weekends off. Like, why would you give something like that up? But I just knew that I was done. Like I had peaked. There's nothing else for me to do. And I need to do this because I want to feel better about my life choices. So that's how I ended up doing this.
Let's talk a bit about failure and stuff. Because I think there's a lot of people, they don't want to admit it. They want to take leaps in life. They want to start a business. They want to move. It's anything. They want to do anything, but they're so scared of failing and failing publicly and having everyone know they failed and feeling that. How do you view, I'll talk a little bit about how I see it. We can kind of see where we align on this. I just want people to get an understanding of, because you're doing things. You just described a wicked job that had everything covered. That a lot of people be like, that's great. That's a job you could support a family off of and do all that and then be miserable and then have a stroke at 70 because your life was stressful. Like that's the path. That's how that life, but that's people that go stability. There's no fear of failure. You just know you clock in, clock out. How did you break that? Because you then pivoted into, I'm going to put myself on camera and fail publicly.
Yeah.
Right? That's essentially what you're doing. Like, and I put myself on camera. I knew exactly what was going to happen. What is Gary doing? He's a 39-year-old man. He's done all this other stuff. He's successful there. Why is he making a fool of himself online talking about this stuff? Obviously, he's going well now, so no one's thinking of that. But sure, you initially get that. I want to hear it. It personally did not bother me at all. I didn't care. And that's why I was able to do it. But I know a lot of people, that stops them from making YouTube videos, stops them from starting a business. I want you to, what's going on in your head when you think of stuff? Before you started YouTube, were you afraid of failure? Were you afraid of people finding it? How you look? Everything. I just want to know how your brain thinks.
Sure. So I don't know how, but it definitely stems from just work, right? Maybe it's just who I am, but I've always been a risk taker and I've never been afraid to just express who I am. Like unapologetically, I am who I am. If you don't like it, go kick rocks. What helped a lot was, work. Because I became a manager at a young age. At 26 years old, I'm managing, freaking 23 people and they're older than me. So you just have to be used to, criticisms. You have to have thick skin. But if you are who you are and who you say you are, right? And if like you're a good person, you're going to do well, like you're likable, things like that. You're charismatic, all that stuff, right? Then why would people hate you? If they hate you, they're probably just jealous most times. Even through my professional career, I've had managers who are above me or my near peers, but they're older than me, like just absolutely slashing my name, right? They're looking for me to fail. They're talking about me behind my back, all that stuff. They're telling their subordinates, yeah, you're going to this guy's camp. He's a young, piece of trash. Yeah, yeah, yeah. These guys come to my camp and they're like, yo, like, we thought you were this dude, but you're totally cool. Like, you're chill. Like, our manager made you out to be this like suck up and this dude who's out to get everybody. And I'm like, well, that's why he hasn't gotten a raise or a promotion. So, I mean, proof is in the pudding there, buddy. But as I moved further into life, like even doing YouTube now, I wasn't that scared to put my face on camera. I will say I was trying to perfect the craft. I was trying to be able to talk intelligently, be able to talk clearly and all that stuff. And even now I still screw up and I have to go through my videos and look for ways to improve. But that's what I look at it as a way to improve myself, because the only benefit I'm going to get is constant improvement, right? Just constantly being 1% better every day. And I've had some really rude comments, on YouTube videos. And I don't even waste time. I just look. It used to bother me. I used to write essays no, you're wrong and blah 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 blah, right? And it turned. But at the end of the day, what for? What's the end goal? You're gonna waste your time, your energy, your focus on some dude who's just a troll, right? And then take that even a step further. I mean, there's real people behind these screens too. So, they're leaving very thoughtful, well-intentioned comments. And I'm like, wow, all right, this is awesome. This is really cool. So getting on camera didn't scare me as much. My friends finding out, I post a lot of my stuff on Instagram. I don't really do it as much anymore, but I just, when I started a real estate company, I posted it on Instagram. I'm like, whatever, let me post it. Facebook, everything. Let me just let people know what I'm doing. When I started a business and it blew up in my face in 2016, I did the same thing. Let everyone know what I was doing. It blew up in my face, whatever. And even now it's people will actually support me. More people have supported me by doing that. It's you don't know what you don't know, but when you do it, you're going to find out really who's there rooting for you or just clapping their hands for you. I will say the biggest pain through this, transition or this journey, if you will, has been having acquaintances or friends actually downplay your ambitions and your goals. That hurt more than anything out of this entire journey. Having your actual former friends just joke on you and say dude, he's wasting time. He's going to scam people and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how am I scared? I don't even sell a product, bro. What are you talking about? But, that was painful to hear. So every time I go back to home, I don't even want to see these guys anymore. I tell some of my other friends, I don't even want to hear their names. Nope. If they can't even at least clap for me or say, hey, I don't need confirmation bias or anything or anything like that. But if you guys are so insecure about yourself and you hate that I'm actually living my life the best way possible, then what does that say about you? I don't even want to associate with you. I'd rather associate with people who are way more positive. So I will say that has been the journey and the transition and kind of the fear of failing. I've never been afraid of failing. I just kind of you take it as a lesson, as a learning lesson. Like I said, I wasted $25,000 on a business, blew up in my face. That was all the money I had. And I was just well, whatever, I'll figure something else out. And then contracting came along. So I don't know, maybe the universe rewarded me. And speaking of the universe, it seems like every risk I take, the universe seems to reward me a little more for taking a bigger risk. So maybe it's luck. I have no idea.
You said a lot of stuff there that struck multiple good chords with me. First of all, how you're lying to yourself. You're doing something that is good. You're not hurting nobody. You're just trying to put out good stuff. You're staying true to yourself. You're an honest, good guy. Why not record yourself? You're not doing anything horrible. You're actually putting out some good into the world. Secondly, the one that really struck a chord was, and that, by the way, that alone makes me feel like things will work out for me. I go, hey, there's no malicious intent behind anything I'm doing. I'm just trying my best here. That's all I'm really doing. So what are you really hating on in the end? I don't get it. It's nothing. I'm just trying to be I don't know what you're really nitpicking. Secondly was the people who underplayed your ambitions and your goals. Jesus Christ. I think because you said it, and that's my biggest thing, that really hits me hard. I think a lot of people deal with that then. Because if we're both, and it really pisses people off who are ambitious, people who really believe strongly about something, and you have someone kind of disregard it in a way or underplay it.
I reflect on this a lot. I have these conversations with myself, and every time people have doubted me and said, you're not going to be able to do this, the only two words that come to my mind is watch me. Like that's it. Watch me. I use that like every time I've been super busy in whatever, it doesn't matter if it was like the professional life or even now this YouTube life. YouTube life. But anyways, it's like whenever someone like really gets under my skin or like angers me or says some like slick shit like that, excuse the language, but says some really slick stuff, right? It's like I use that as absolute energy, as like fuel to just work even harder. It's like because the pain is so deep, it's like it's burning, it's itching at you, and you just want to prove them wrong now. And whether it's malicious or not, like I just want to prove you wrong. And I'm going to make sure you know my name. You know, you're going to see my face all over the place. Like, I don't care. You're going to see my face everywhere. Even for, you know, the I'll call them former acquaintances back home that have absolutely doubted me. They're going to be so upset when all of the friend circles that we know are all watching my YouTube video. They already do. And they even copied some of my trades at the times that, you know, and they're like, bro, like this is paying, like this is pumping. And these guys will still talk their trash and like, well, he's just cosplaying as a financial advisor. Like you guys are going to lose a bunch of money. It's like, and they tell me this stuff. And I'm like, guys, don't even tell me anything. Like, I'll just let the proof, I'll let the proof show itself. You know, there's something from Alex Hormozi. I don't know if you watch Alex Hormozi's stuff. I love his content, but he says like, if you put out enough content about you, or if like you are who you say you are, then nobody will be able to say otherwise. Like if you have enough, you know, either positive reviews or your face is everywhere, your friends all have good things to say about you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then nobody can throw salt on your name after that, right? Nobody. Like they can try to discredit you, they can talk their trash, but when you have a list of when you have a track record of pure success of every goal, like I publish my goals publicly. And I say, this is where I fail. This is where I suck. This is where I need to do better. This is where I met my goals. Like, you know, I publish those publicly, and it just, I don't know. I'm just 100% transparent. You can't tell me something about myself that I don't already know or that I haven't already made apparent. And it's just like, again, I use that as like fuel, because every time I've went on these huge leaps of like just doing hard work, it almost becomes a joy. It's like, oh, I'm going to prove these guys so wrong. I'm going to feel so good about it. And I revert back to my earlier statement. It feels good to be right.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And like, and a lot of people be like, that's a weird way to motivate yourself. That's not healthy. Hey man, it works. And it is what it is. And it's effortless. It's just in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, hey, it's what I needed. And sometimes you just need that. When on days you're tired, you're like, wait, no. I'm not going to stop until I get to where I'm trying to go. And with your channel, like, you know, like Proof, you said Alex Hormozi, that's a good one. I think all of us at this point have probably consumed way too much of his content, but he says a lot of really good stuff. That being one of them. On your channel though, you're talking about what you're doing. It's hard to discredit you when I was like, oh, he's spending this much money doing it on this. He did well here. Like it's there. It's all there. There's no, I don't have to translate. I don't have to think you're selling me snake oil. You know, like there's a lot of that, especially in finance. And like, do people even have portfolios that they say they have? Like what's going on here? Like some guy would be like, I have $1 million net worth. It's like, you have $999,000 of debt. And then you just equate that to your net worth. It's like, it's not real. None of this is real. It's all fake, right? So I think one thing you do really well there, and I think we kind of opened with this, was the transparency factor with yours. I try to do that with my channel. I get a little nervous talking about my entire portfolio. So I go like, oh, I don't know, like, should I be putting all that out there? So I have yet to be like, here's how much. So now I'm sort of selectively choosing parts of my portfolio. I felt comfortable now doing this test of the covered call ETF thing that we've been talking about. I have like 100K on that. It's growing. I'm like, oh, you know, that's like small enough sample size and it's something where I actually adjust it on a monthly basis. I don't touch my larger holding. When you buy like ETFs, it's like a VOO or something. Like, how much video content can I make about that? It's like, oh, I just dollar cost average into this thing in the end. That's one video. I think I have one video on it, but like for that, I can talk about it. So I'm trying to be transparent there. One thing will kind of tie it all back. I try to tell myself, I'm like, I really don't give a shit what people think. Like that's my whole thing. Like that's like a superpower in a good way. I care what you think if I'm hurting your feelings. I care what you think if I'm doing. I don't care what you think if you think like screw Gary. Why is he trying this thing? He's going to embarrass himself. That's when I don't care. But it's like, I really do care. Like, I'm really trying to be cognizant of trying to make people feel good after an interaction. I try to be people's feelings. So to clarify that. But I did a video on my channel called I'm Obese, because you mentioned health. Right? And I thought it was kind of healthy. And I was like, okay, I want to pivot our channel, just like maybe 5 to 10% of the content, talk a little bit about health, because wealth, then there's health. What's the point of being wealthy if you're not healthy? So and then I had an interview with Jerry Kroll. He owns a bunch of longevity clinics. I went in for a DEXA scan. I didn't know this because I've barely been working out for the last year. I've been busy with the kids, YouTube, all this stuff. And I sit down for 12 hours and I'm 6'3". My body type is, like long and lanky. So I hide bad weight really well. So I thought I was in better shape than I really was. I took a DEXA scan. I was at 24.6% body fat. I was technically clinically obese. So I was like, okay, I can not talk about this but I want to talk about health. Do I lead with, look how healthy I am, here's how you get in shape, and lie? Because I do know how to get healthy because I've done it in the past. Or I tell people the truth of like, fuck, I'm fat. Here's where I'm starting from. But then that's really the only way, right? I was like, no, this is not positioning me as like an authority. This is positioning me as an idiot who got out of shape. And I'm a finance guy. This is gonna go really, really bad, really fast. I was like, but I had no other option. I was like, but I want to talk about health. Shit, I'm a case study at this point. I'm trying to build a $10,000 covered call portfolio. That's a case study. I'm at $2,000 right now. I'm gonna get up to 10. That's a 1-year case study. I'm like, I'll do a 90-day case study with myself. This worked out this way. So I have a video on my channel called I'm Obese. It's literally, that's all it's called. I'm obese. And it's just me shirtless with a giant gut. And I was like, oh, my wife's like, you sure you want to do that? And I was like, I'm probably gonna get a lot of unsubscribes. I did get a lot of unsubscribes, but then I got some subscribes that actually canceled each other out. Right. So I was like, nice. Oh, okay, cool. So I was like, okay, well, that was it. And then the comments were more or less pretty good. But then you do get the comments that I was expecting of like, dude, you're disgusting. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm working on it. I have one guy, I was like, I'm working on it. Just give me like 30 days. And then instead of the guy being like, go to hell, he's like, well, okay, then good luck. I was like, okay, well, thanks. So I was like, that's what I was like, what are you going to do? I'm obese. Yep. I got to get myself out of this. You can shit on me, but it doesn't change the fact that I actually have to get in shape. I want to talk about health. Okay, I just happen to be a good case study at this point. It's weird on my finance channel, but that was it. But then I don't think I could have done that even 6 months ago. But all this YouTube and me on my face on camera has sort of adjusted my tolerance for like that. Because even that would have been, no matter how much I don't care, you do care when you're like, sure,
it hurts. Yeah, sometimes it hurts.
And you know you're out of shape. And you're supposed to like establish yourself as an authority in a space of like, hey, I know what I'm doing. It's like, I do know what I'm doing, but I still somehow like F this part of my life up. It's like, okay. So like, for me, that was kind of like, okay, kind of happy I ripped off that Band-Aid. But there was behind, and I'm getting to a point here. I did that because I was trying not to get stagnant in my growth as well. I didn't want to get comfortable in what I was doing. And I was like, I got to keep pushing boundaries mentally, even stuff that people don't see. I was like, I think I'm something I'm not. I am uncomfortable with this. I actually didn't want to post it, really. And that's why I did it. I went, no, I need to condition my brain to handle that level of criticism because I'm not going to be better off if I just deny it. And that's what I did. Are you cognizant of that with yourself sometimes where you go, I need to do something to build up more of an immunity to a stress here or an insecurity here or a fear here, and then you go out of your way to do that? And that's like your own internal work that you do, like just to make yourself stronger, more resilient in the long term, an investment in yourself that's uncomfortable. Do you think about these things?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the big things that actually I just released some videos on like my thesis, right? My market predictions, things like this. And I'm like, I use that because this is honestly what I think. This is what I'm thinking, right? This is why I structured the portfolio the way I did. And this is why I added SGov, and this is why I added Bitcoin, all this stuff, right? So I put it out there because I'm scared of maybe there's something that I don't see, right? And I get some nasty comments, right? Like, dude, you're totally wrong. You didn't think about this. Like, why the hell would you add SGov? Like, that's a clown move, right? Like stuff like that. But I'm like, obviously you didn't even watch the video. So, but yeah, I push the envelope. Like what really pushed the envelope for me when I first like really started taking this a little more serious was, showing the actual portfolio. I never thought I was going to ever do that. I thought I was going to be, more like talking head type of personal finance. Oh, 6 ways to save money. Invest in the S&P 500 index, ticker VOO, ticker SPY, right? But then like I just saw other YouTubers doing it, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. I have too much money. I don't want to get robbed. And then finally I'm just like, yeah. And then finally I'm just like, you know what? Just do it and get strong. Get strong, learn how to fight. There you go. Get strong, learn how to fight. If someone tries to rob you, they're gonna have to wait 3 to 5 business days, because that's how long it takes for Robinhood to transfer, right? Like in that time, you could try to fight your way out. So like that's the way I was thinking about this. And then finally, this is when I like really released my inner portfolio, my thoughts, and everything else. And the criticism, it wasn't even there. Like even here in Thailand, I'm like, because I'm a part of these different communities out here, and some of these people watch my content, and I'm like, one day they're going to invite me and just jump me, right? And I'm like, well, better learn how to fight. Like you better learn how to fight. And I mean, they know that it's going to take 3 to 5 business days to get that money off Robinhood. So, and they can't just steal my phone and log in. So I mean, like there's all these layers of security. But anyways, like I push the envelope in like a way where it's like I'm trying to find the best way to explain it. It's like because it's hard to push out especially in the finance space. It's hard to push out a thesis of any sort, right? Like why should you invest in this? There's a lot of these, and I don't hate on these YouTubers at all, right? I wish them all the best, but it's the content I have a problem with. All of them talk great about these ETFs. There's no wrong answers. What if you put 10,000 in this ETF? What will it pay you? I don't know. Let's do some simple math. Well, I don't need a 10-minute video for this, right? Or what would happen if or I just bought this ETF, right? And it's like one share. Like you didn't buy anything, bro. Like, but I don't know where I was going with this, but at least in the finance space, when you're putting things out, right? I don't know. Like, I don't feel scared about it. I knew like, all right, let me go back. Now I figured out what my point was. So we all have these ideas about our portfolios, right? We have these open thoughts. Most videos are just, I bought this, I sold this, but nobody explains their rationale or their thinking. So that was where it really kind of started getting a little scary. Adding your own commentary to political news, to geopolitical conflicts, to the geopolitics out in the world. When you start adding your commentary to it, right, and you're explaining why you feel this way or why you're thinking this way. So as I built the portfolio, as I'm covering news, like I'm just putting out my honest thoughts, right, and I'm perfectly fine and subject to criticisms and different perspectives. What I won't tolerate is disrespectful criticisms or feedback. Like if people come in, you're a moron, like, okay, delete, ban, you don't need to see this channel. This is not the channel for you. But if you come with like a logical perspective and say, you don't need SGov because, or you don't need a Misty because, right? Like I like those comments because it's going to help me learn and offer a different perspective. So I don't know. That's the way I look at it. It's like, I was scared at first to publish a lot of this stuff and offer my deeper thoughts, my commentary, because what if I'm wrong, right? Whoa, no, I'm wrong. But if I was right all the time, I'd be a trillionaire, right? So, I mean, I'm wrong. I could be wrong sometimes. That's why I tell people don't copy my trades.
There's a couple things there. So when you start understanding the thought process, when you make a basic video of buy VOO and put $10,000 and you get whatever 10% back, sure, if you brand new investing, you need to watch a video like that. But to really understand how to invest, you need people to actually explain their thought process of why they bought stuff, because then you'll start understanding how individualized it is. Because when you said SGov, it was very particular to your circumstances, how your risk tolerance, what you're comfortable with, and you explain that. And that's what the whole point of this podcast was. Like, that's why I go like, hey, explain why you get it, because it's what's that analogy? Give a man a fish, feed them for a day, teach them how to fish, feed them for like whatever. We're trying to teach people how to fish with a podcast. You try to teach people how to fish on your YouTube channel. It's just like, here's why I'm buying, here's how I'm buying. You're teaching them a thought process of how you're looking at information, because they're such a different human being than you, but that they understand that they have to like take into all these different considerations and all this kind of different stuff. And then to what their own personal feelings are about stuff, then they make an investment decision. So like, that's why the podcast is here. Your channel is there. So you sharing your thesis and all this kind of stuff in your line of thinking is the only way to educate an audience. And then they go, I disagree with 99% of it, but then they cherry pick the stuff that actually made sense to them. And that's the whole point, just to find elements. No one should agree with you 100% unless they're a clone of you, right? Because it's too hard because you're making things based uniquely to you. Like, I didn't know I had a crazy investment strategy of putting a lot of money on highly undervalued stocks, waiting 2-3, and then selling them when they 10x, and then waiting 2-3 years when another crazy thing happens. But people are like, that's high risk. That's a lot. I didn't know that. I had no idea until I started making YouTube content talking about it. I was like, oh, people think that's crazy. And this is coming from people who are doing like high yield covered calls and all this kind of stuff that I thought initially was high risk. So we had it all like, they thought that what they were doing was low risk, and I thought what I was doing was low risk. And maybe I would never even done my strategy if I had known other people thought it was crazy. But I've gotten so good at it that that's my strategy. And I started talking about it, and I realized, oh, people think this is kind of like wild, but it works for me. So like that's good. Another thing is when I kind of want to talk about a little bit about the geopolitical thing. I'm gonna get you going because I know it's really, really late for you.
No, that's fine. We can go as long as you want, man. We can go.
All right, cool.
I don't have work tomorrow.
Okay, there you go. I'm interested to see how you perceive stuff because you're in another country. You're an American citizen, but you're not living in America. Do you look at things like Liberation Day and stuff that happens with Trump? Is that like when I look at political news and stuff like that? I'm not strong politically anywhere. I just sort of, they all kind of blend together for me. Politicians, I'm like, they just have their own self-interest, and that's fine. Do your thing. I look at it as how's it going to affect my portfolio? Like, oh, I think this will cause a dip. I think this will cause it. Like, that's how my brain's computing at this point. Are you passionate about politics, or do you just look at it from a portfolio perspective? Like, how do you view geopolitics?
I am not passionate about politics. I only became passionate about politics when I started doing this style of investing. Where I'm actually investing in like single stock tickers and understanding the broader news. So like it actually happened by accident. Democrat, Republican, I don't care who's in charge. Just tell me where to put my money, right? That's it. I'm a capitalist, all right? I believe in the free market and I believe in meritocracies. Companies that are delivering exceptional value are going to rise, right? Companies that are not delivering value are going to fall, right? That's just, that's the black and white of it. Now, when it gets into, the more niche, I call it niche, the more niche things within Democrat versus Republican, I just ignore almost 100% of that stuff. I don't care for it. I actually took inspiration from another group of YouTubers. They cover a lot of geopolitics, and I absolutely love their channel. But they refuse to talk about politics at home. They only cover international relations. So I took that same approach, and it's like you're looking for objective, factual information, not narratives. Not opinions. So every time when I was doing live streams, I'd always cover the facts, the actual factual stuff, because a lot of these media outlets, they'll slip in really slick things, like, I don't know, semiconductors are on pause. Trump is crashing the market, right? Like they'll add this little snippet in there, right? It's like, okay, I don't need that. I need to know what's happening with the semiconductor space, right? So, whenever I look at or review a lot of news, because I have so much like on my news feed, it's crazy. But whenever I go through the news, I'm looking for like factual stuff that can impact my portfolio specifically. So I have, some stock tickers that I follow, and then, some general like stock tickers I follow. So I'm always looking for news around that. And it's mostly around my thesis, my long-term thesis of artificial intelligence, right? The AI thesis. So I'm always looking for news that's going to impact that. So anytime, President Trump, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent is on TV, I listen to them. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, I listen to him. There's a new SEC chair, Securities Exchange Commission's chair, Paul Atkins, very favorable to crypto. I listen to him. What's funny is during my initial days of like actually diving in, I read what President Donald Trump's agenda was, and he listed 2 sectors that he wants to prioritize, and that was artificial intelligence and crypto. So, it's a no-brainer where the focus is going to be, and where my focus is artificial intelligence and crypto. So that is pretty much how I look at news. Now, when it comes to the more broader, because, my unique background of actually being in the military and working with the military in the Middle East, it's just something you can't get rid of. I can't turn it off. Like I love to understand what's happening in the broader world, like the geopolitics, the Russia-Ukraine war. What was that? Like when Iran was popping off, I was talking to my community and telling them, like, guys, President Trump said he's going to give 2 weeks to decide on strikes. I was like, however, I just got information that he's meeting with his National Security Council. Presidents only do that if they plan to do a strike. So I knew right there and then, like, guys, there's going to be a strike on this weekend, and it's going to dip the markets. So the markets had a small little pullback. Oil was more impacted than anything because of the whole Strait of Hormuz and understanding that the Iranians can actually blockade this if they wanted to. So there's all this stuff, and it's just like I consume it all. Try to pick out the points that are interesting, like to me, like especially with the trade war, like Mexico, Canada, I don't really care about. There's nothing there for me to care about, but I do care about China and understanding what's happening between China and the United States. China wants to take over Taiwan. Taiwan Semiconductor, the most important company in the world right now. They're building a plant in Arizona. They're building a whole manufacturing plant in Arizona. Okay, so this is a big deal to understand why they're doing that, right? This is flooding investment into the United States by Donald Trump's taking all this credit. But really this started under the Biden administration. And it's because the United States is trying to move to basically corner China and basically hold them there, right? Because that's why we're holding semiconductors. So again, like every time I'm looking at this news, this geopolitic news, it just makes me a more like lethal investor, if I can even use that term. Like I understand my investments. This is why I went with, Chippy, which is basically a strict US based semiconductor ETF versus a total world, semiconductor ETF or a global technology ETF, right? I didn't want to go for any of that trash because if you look at what America is trying to do, they're trying to maintain their hegemony, their dominance in artificial intelligence, and they're trying to stifle anything from their biggest competitor, which is not Russia, it's actually China. So by stifling their innovation, withholding AMD, NVIDIA chips, Broadcom, Qualcomm, TSMC, all that stuff, by withholding all that stuff, you see it through a different lens. And then not only that, if you follow the companies, like I follow NVIDIA, I got a little bit of news that they were looking at building an office in China. Okay, why would they build an office in China and why would they build an office in Taiwan? Well, this is known as like a shield of sorts because this is just one less reason for China to invade Taiwan, especially if NVIDIA is based out of there. But why would NVIDIA have a office in China? It's just so odd. Well, what is the biggest foundry in China? And that is SMIC. Similar to TSMC, it's their biggest foundry. NVIDIA is having trouble getting chips to China because of Trump. So what would stop NVIDIA from teaming up with SMIC to produce the H20 chips locally in China, thereby opening up the market back to NVIDIA? So again, it's like you look at this news, you look at the broader picture of things, and you see how they can impact your investments and you act accordingly. So I consume a lot of news, a lot of narratives. I try to skip the opinion stuff. I try to skip all the local politics. I'm interested in the global politics, like the geopolitical stuff, the regional conflicts, the trade war. Obviously, I'm interested in that stuff because that is really what's going to impact your portfolio at a bigger picture. Not the little local state, city riots that may impact maybe a bank stock or two, but it's not going to impact the S&P 500, for example.
Are you posting these kind of more real-time updates on your Discord, in your Discord account, your chat? Where do you place all this stuff, or do you make videos on it when you're doing which one?
So I used to do a lot of lives, and that's where I would post the information as I see it, right? Because I'd wake up in the morning, go through my news feed like daily, right? And I was like, you know what? I should just make this a stream and then just give my commentary on it, right? So that's kind of how that started. In the Discord, I'll just put my thoughts here and there. I'll drop like an idea or maybe a hypothesis or a thesis, when Elon started tweeting about his America party, I was like, guys, TSLW, Tesla, that's about to drop. I was like, it always drops every time Elon tweets. And then I was like, there was this last one where I forget what Trump did, but he Oh yeah, it was the trade dispute with Canada. He announced it on a Friday. The market tanked. I was like, guys, he always announces bad news on a Thursday or Friday. By Sunday evening, there's always good news. By Monday, we pop. And what happened?
Yeah.
Carney came on TV, said, "Oh, we worked things out with the United States. This market's not manipulated, but we worked things out with them, and we're going to continue to trade." And then Monday, boom, pop. Right. So I'll drop my little thoughts here and there, and I'm not always right. But I'll drop my thoughts in there, and people can run with that, or they can add to it, or say yes or no, or here's my perspective on it. So that's pretty much that Discord.
So the Discords for your thoughts. You do live streams once a week. It looks like now, right?
I haven't done live streams in a while. Like I want to get back into live streaming. Yeah, I want to get back into live streaming, but it's like juicy news doesn't always come out every single day. So I really want like the news that's spicy. Like I don't want like, AMD declared a 25-cent dividend. Like I don't care about that. Or HP, bought Compaq. I don't know. Like just there's noise, and then there's actual like actionable news where you can use that to look at your portfolio. So that news is it kind of died down. Last week was spicy. There's a lot of news. I wish I covered it, but I just didn't. So now I'm just kind of including them in my video roll-ups. Just some thoughts and commentary, things like that.
Yeah, I think I'll have to use you for that, because my biggest struggle has been geopolitics, just because it's a time constraint thing. Like I'm running out of time every day. Like I'm going to bed tired, and I just ran out of time to do everything I need to do. So I'm always looking for resources. You're clearly knowledgeable with all this, and your fingers on the pulse. I kind of just have like a sentiment gauge on what's happening in the world for the most part. If something makes it through, to me, is typically either really good or getting to really, really bad. So whenever I feel like a high fear sentiment, I start paying attention. I go, good, because then it's a buying opportunity. When everything's really, really good, I kind of disregard. I don't really pay attention. But when I start feeling like there's panic, a lot of panic happening, then I start cluing into what's causing the panic, what's doing it. And I go, okay, maybe I start looking, like I start allocating cash, and then I start looking into it. But I don't actually look until I feel like there's a lot of fear in the atmosphere. And that's just through, headlines keep popping in my face, right? And that's got to happen consistently. Yeah. But I don't know until it's hit like this threshold of fear that it falls on my radar. I just wish I had a better pulse on it. But it's realistically, it's like I have an advertising company, I'm doing this, and then with my kids, in the evenings when I would have time for this, what am I really doing? I'm watching Coco Melon with my kids, Spidey and his amazing friends. Like I'm watching or I'm playing with them on a trampoline. Like I'm not, I don't know where to weave this in, right? Like last night where I do geopolitics, instead I'm actually watching a lot of your videos instead. It's more important for me to be up to speed on what you're up to than it is what China's up to, right? So like that's sort of where my head's at. So I guess what I'm getting at is, if I watch your videos near the end, because you kind of start with whatever the thumbnail title is and you get into like the geo at the end, I can kind of use you as a bit of a resource there, right? Be like, all right, cool, what's going on in the world? You'll give me some bit of a breakdown, get me up to speed. I can just watch, because your videos come out like basically every other day, every day. I can get a little information dump from you because you're aligned with AI. You're aligned with Bitcoin, which I'm trying to get more into. So we're the same there. So you're paying attention to the same stuff I'm paying attention to. And so I think the reason why I'm saying this out loud is this is how I'll be like leveraging Eugen and his channel, to help me with my self, because I just need someone who's like condensing this all into one spot, aggregating it all, and I can just get it in one hot dose there. The second is, you mentioned Trump was mentioning AI. Is he actually following through on a lot of the stuff he was saying there? Does it look like he's going to help that sort of boom in America? Because that, like you said, semiconductors and all this stuff are the foundation of all this stuff, US based. Everything you talk about is actually how I was thinking. So like I know we're aligned there. Is he doing all that stuff? Is it looking like it's going the way he was talking about?
I would say yes, it is. He just completed that Middle East tour where Palantir, NVIDIA, AMD, which is surprising to see AMD and NVIDIA in the same exact room with, all these other high profile people. You had Elon Musk there, you had BlackRock there, you had a ton of these companies out there, right? I think TSMC, no, maybe TSMC wasn't there. I think so. I'm not sure. But anyways, you had all these companies, and I was watching this like a hawk. So they're making their tour through the Middle East, and I'm looking at for that key information, like why are they there? What are they doing? And basically Trump is drumming up investment, right? That's what he's doing. And it was an absolute tailwind for all of these companies, semiconductors, because since they can't ship to China, might as well sell them to the Middle East, right? And Middle East wants to build their artificial intelligence data centers. They want to build their Stargate project. And the Stargate project started in the United States. Sam Altman is running it with Oracle, Microsoft, and a couple other people. And this was basically Donald Trump's, way to get artificial intelligence out there, to basically create this American AI dominance in the world. So he's wielding the Stargate project as that weapon, as that tool to make it happen. So I follow everything that Stargate's doing. I follow everything that Sam Altman, does or says. Same thing with Lisa Su, amazing person, smart lady. I didn't know her and Jensen are like cousins, but yeah, they're actually like family, which is wild.
Weird. What's the chances?
Total coincidence, by the way. Like weird. It is a total coincidence. Yeah, but yeah, they're cousins. And just following all these people, and it's like, it's so crazy how now I understand when a stock rises and why it falls. And it just, again, it makes me a better investor. So whenever I do these videos and go over these geopolitics stuff, like it's not going to click for everybody, because I have a very vast audience. You're going to have the new investors and you're going to have like the more experienced ones, right? But what I try to do is explain the thinking, the logic behind why I'm making the moves I'm making. And it gets kind of tiresome, on my part, because I'm like, I feel like I'm just repeating myself all the time. But I'm like, this is why I'm so bullish on the AI thesis, right? This is basically the proliferation of AI across the world is going to be American dominant, right? It's American AI dominance. But I say all of that to say, like, when you understand what's happening in the broader picture and you work backwards, then you can really become a great investor that way. Because if you look at some of the old investors, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, you have Bill Ackman, you have Peter Lynch, you have all these really popular, famous investors. They always look at the bigger picture. It's never this minute, very micro thing, right? They're always looking at the bigger picture, the risk to reward, what can happen to the stock, what can happen to the company, what can impact it. Like Warren Buffett used to invest in TSMC. He had a really, really sizable position, and he sold when there was all this riling going on from China saying that we're going to invade Taiwan. So he sold everything out of TSMC, but he knew TSMC was one of the most valuable companies in the world because they're the only ones that produce NVIDIA chips. Like TSMC, without them and ASML, I mean, it's pretty much a done deal. That's why the United States has them all. They have all the chip makers. China doesn't. They have Huawei. They have some of their proprietary companies, but by comparison to, ASML or these American companies, ASML is not American, but to these American companies, I mean, they can't even hold a light. They can't hold a light to them. So again, that's just how I look at things. Like, don't bet against the U.S. market. People right now are like, oh, invest international ETFs, international this and that. It's like, you can do that, be my guest, but I'm never going to bet against the United States. I don't care if Warren Buffett just bought some land in Japan. I don't care. I'm still going to invest in the United States.
So do you think then, and I'm pretty sure you think, because there's a bit of an AI arms race right now, it's so early to tell America is going to come out on top of that. Like you'll say stuff where like they had Stargate and they're spending all this money and they're spending billions upon billions. And then this was a while back, China is like, hey, here's DeepSeek that we made for $5. And it just like, and they're like, wait, what? Like, yeah, we became more efficient. You can like stop us from having the best chips. We're just going to be more efficient because we're Chinese and we're smarter than you. And here you go. It's like, oh yeah, you made them better problem solvers. Do you think there's any threat there at all of them just being more efficient, eventually catching up, using all that to somehow win?
So I think
and really quickly, is there even a winner on top of that?
That's a good question. I think if ChatGPT was a public company, they'd be one of the most valuable companies in the world, in my opinion. But when that DeepSeek scare came out, it was like, I looked at it and it was funny, like Meta had formed a war team, like a war commission to basically tear this thing apart and figure out what makes it so good. There's a white paper done by a research think tank, and I read all this stuff. And they basically came to find out like DeepSeek is garbage. Like, yes, it's powerful. Yes, it's powerful. But what did they build it on? They built it on NVIDIA, off of NVIDIA chips. And some were speculating that there was a lot of chips that they weren't supposed to have that they had. And this is how they came about with DeepSeek. But this is why America is pushing so hard to basically make it hard for them to get semiconductors, because they don't want their DeepSeek to be better. But not only that, China said, oh, we did this for $15 million, right? We trained this model for $15 million. When the dust settled and the stock market kind of settled, come to find out that no, China actually spent like a couple $100 million on DeepSeek. It was not $15 million. It was a couple hundred. So again, people, the funny thing is, as soon as like something like that happened, the stock market dropped, right? Oh, American AI is done for. Meta is done for. Palantir is done for. Google's done for. ChatGPT is done for, right? You had all these financial pundits go on CNBC. Oh, DeepSeek is gonna take over, right? They're a big competitor to the United States. I sat through all of that and I was like, I don't think so. And I'm just some like chump investor with like a just $100K portfolio. Like I don't know, but I would not bet against the United States. I mean, we've been developing these for years. For years, and you think we're going to let a competitor just come out of the left field? Like, you think Meta, which has billions of dollars on their balance sheet, is just going to let a competitor come out of left field with a AI that's better than theirs, or Microsoft or Google or even ChatGPT or OpenAI? Excuse me. You think they're going to just let this happen? No, they're going to maintain their competitiveness, and this, if anything, it's a good thing, because yes, China came out with it, but now these other companies, these US companies, it just makes them even more competitive. So if anything, it just made us better.
That was my logic. It was when people go like, what's going to happen to Google, Meta, and all that. I'm like, they have like hundreds of billions that they're dumping money into this. This isn't some like side project. They're putting, and then the US government, who has all the taxpayers, like people are just trillions of dollars. The whole world is like focused on developing this thing, which also leads me to my favorite part of the conversation, where we get a little bit kind of like into a stoner conversation, because I like talking about this. It's because there's so much money going into this. I always am interested to hear where people see AI in like 5-10 years. By the time this episode is aired, I would have had Dr. Andreas, I forgot his last name, but he's an AI developer out of Europe. He owns an AI company. They develop like AI systems and stuff. I was like, I gotta have this guy on and just ask him every stoner question I have of like, are we all gonna be jobless? Are we all gonna be like this? And have him answer. And he answered for like 2 hours straight. And so let's get a professional. But I'm interested to hear where you think it'll be in 5-10 years, because there's so much money in it, and it's developing so fast because of all that money. It's going the way of cell phones, where they just innovated cell phone technology so fast because all the money was in it. It's like, I have a hard time comprehending where we'll be in 5 years, because my business 12 months ago, when I was thinking, I'm like, okay, I got to learn how to do AI. I was like, okay, I got to learn it now because everyone will be using it in 5 years. Fast forward 12 months, everything I thought we'd be using it for in 5 years, we're already doing now. Like, I was off by 500% wrong. I was 500% wrong. I was like, Jesus Christ. And that's kind of broke my brain, being like, I actually can't accurately predict what it'll look like. So how do you think it'll look like in 5-10 years? And how will it affect your life?
So let me touch on the Mag 7 real quick, because they're important in all of this. So I personally believe that the Mag 7 is not going to grow like we've known them to grow, because it gets harder to keep moving the needle when you're already making hundreds of billions of dollars. It just gets harder to move that needle. So I think, again, investors should look for opportunities elsewhere. And again, I have some names, some picks in my head. NVIDIA is obviously part of the Mag 7, but you have like good companies out there. You have like Broadcom, Qualcomm, AMD, you have TSMC, you have all these other companies out there. You have Palantir. Again, Palantir, if you look at what they're doing, they're not just some shady government company. Their financial services, their software could be used in the financial services, manufacturing, logistics, healthcare. It's limitless. And now to the whole point about AI and where we'll be in 5 years, it's crazy. It's already happening now. So What used to take 2 or 3 months worth of analysts perusing through mortgage applications to find fraud, Palantir was able to accomplish that within, I think, like 2 hours. So what used to take a team of analysts to complete over a span of 3 months, Palantir completed within a couple hours. So that's the how fast and efficient this AI is. You take a look at, let's say, warehouses, logistics for Amazon. They just announced that they purchased or brought online their 1 millionth robot. They're replacing humans. You don't need humans carrying boxes. That could be done autonomously, which leads to Tesla. Tesla is, they're on this bold, ambitious plan they're not a car company. They're a technology company, right? That just happened to start with a car. So, they have robotics. They have the best battery tech. They have autonomous cars, right? They have their own AI and they have their own data center. Like, this is everything you want in a freaking tech company. So, Elon Musk is like, I can picture in the future, everyone's going to have their own robot, right? Or something like their own little C-3PO, R2-D2, whatever, right? So there will be more robots. NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, he was in a kitchen and they were, kind of like, he's looking around, just doing some remedial task. And the question came up like, do you think this whole kitchen could be automated? The answer is yes. You don't need humans to cook food. You don't need humans to take fries out of an air fryer or out of the oil, right? A robot can flip a burger. It's getting to the point where, and it's funny that the Trump administration has been completely silent about this, but there's going to be a wave of jobs lost to autonomy, to autonomous robots and to artificial intelligence. Like copywriting, as you know, you don't need to hire a copywriter. You use ChatGPT. Video editing, don't need that either. AI can do it, right? You have CapCut, you have all these other AI products out there. Let's talk about, okay, well, what about a kitchen, right? Cooking food, that could be automated. McDonald's is already doing it. You could order food off of a menu and then the back kitchen will cook it, but just replace the workers and now you have autonomous robots. Now you have a fully autonomous McDonald's, right? Trucking, right? You can have a truck with nobody inside delivering goods. Tesla just did that. They just delivered a car autonomously, right? And Amazon's experimenting with this by having autonomous delivery trucks drop packages off at people's houses. They just have the little robot come out with their package, run up to the door, throw the package, and then run back to the car. You don't need humans. So again, like where robotics and artificial intelligence is going is coming fast. And people just, I don't think we're ready for it as a race, as a human race. I don't think we're ready for it as a nation, or anywhere like, again, robots aren't going to be everywhere, right? If you have some of the poorest nations that don't have AI, like they're just not going to have it, unfortunately. But, for the nations, the wealthier nations, whatever you want to call them, there's going to be a wave of artificial intelligence just taking over jobs, like completely. You already had Microsoft fire 9,000 developers. Software coding and programming used to be a very specialized skill. And now, you have Perplexity, I think, Perplexity AI, able to do all the coding, almost 90% of the coding. So instead of having 10 developers, you can have one developer just check the code, add a little hashtag here or there, a little quote here or there, and boom, use Perplexity and now you're good. Right. So AI is deflationary. If I'm using this correctly, it's deflationary, where corporations, businesses, we as people, we have we have to hire a bunch of talent to do this and that and the other thing. Well, AI can replace a bunch of staff, right? even in warfare, you don't even need pilots. You don't need pilots to be piloting these things. You don't need infantry. I'm not saying you don't need it, but you certainly need infantry. But you can have Anduril. If Anduril ever IPOs, Anduril has their own autonomous robots that can fire a machine gun. They're tanks. They have tanks that can fire machine guns and full on missiles. All autonomous. It's moving in that way. It's moving towards that dystopian future. And that's why there's so much fear right now out in the world about like, this is, Elon Musk said, this is that Terminator, like we're at that cusp where the policy is going to decide whether we go towards Terminator or whether we go through, to this like very abundant future with AI. So, because again, it does look that way. Like we are heading towards Terminators where you're going to have a Tesla bot with a rifle powered by Palantir, running through a battlefield. Like it's starting to look that way. So it's crazy. And it's going to have an NVIDIA chip in the Tesla bot. Like, like it's way out there. Like it's way out there, dude. But that's kind of where I think AI is headed. Like, it's going to be used in everyday life. It's definitely going to be used in everyday life.
It'll be a blend, I think, of both. It'll be that Tesla bot fighting battles, but then also people who aren't fighting battles having really easy lives. A lot of the people who I've had on who talk about AI all agree with you about mass layoffs. The AI developer thinks you'll really start seeing the impact by 2030. That's because he develops it. He's like, there's a couple of hurdles he has to get over to really get into jobs, certain types of jobs. And then also just with AI, a lot of people start bringing up the concept of universal income because of this. It's like, oh, you just have to pay people to exist at that point because there just won't be jobs to fill. And then a couple of things I always sort of go into, and we'll end this in a bit here, is AI does have benefits because the world population is technically decreasing in developed nations. No one's having kids anymore. So there are jobs. Jobs do need to be like manual labor jobs, and other jobs have to be replaced by robots, especially in countries like China, where they didn't produce enough people to backfill all the manual labor that they have. So I think it's like a problem now. But then I think like for future generations, because we're having less people, you'll actually need AI and robots to do a lot of that work. I also think people in general, humans as a species, what we're really good at is problem solving. And we're really good at solving problems when we know they exist. So at the turn of the century, we had listed the top 10 problems. None of them exist anymore once we diagnosed what those problems were. We went, oh, those are all issues. And then we get hit with problems that we don't know exist. They're a problem temporarily. We put them in a checklist and then we solve them. With AI, to me, really, really fast. Those problems are onset slowly. This will come really fast to us. We'll go, these are 10 problems affecting us right now caused by AI. We're human beings. We'll solve them and we'll keep going. So I'm more of a glass half full kind of guy. I think it'll end up with warfare with robots. I agree with you. But hey, only robots will die unless they're invading poor countries and for resources, which could easily happen, where then there'll be a lot of victimized by robots, and you'll take the humanity out of warfare altogether, and it'll just be horrible, and that will probably exist. But then for people chilling back home in developed countries, really easy lives, and we'll figure out some way of making it work. I could be completely wrong because we really don't know, but that's sort of where I think it'll end up.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. I really appreciate your conversation with me today, Eugen. I think there's a lot we could actually talk about. I especially want to get into in future videos to talk more about your thoughts more on tech, your thoughts more on geopolitics and how it affects everything. I honestly, I'd love to have you back on in the near future because I actually have a lot more stuff I want to ask you. But yeah, check out his channel. You'll see it on screen now. Eugen, thanks for jumping in with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.